Yeah, you can hear me? Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcel, and today I'm going to be talking about optimizing to innovate. What that means in practice is maintaining cost efficiency throughout your digital transformation journey, but also the best practices and tips on how you can unlock savings across your IT estate. My presentation today is going to include 3 areas. First, the why, so why it's really important that your IT cost optimization practices have adapted to the pace of transformation. The how, so what are the practical tips and methods that you can do to unlock savings in your IT estate? And finally, the wow, which means some concrete examples of results we've achieved through our services for our customers. Before we get into the actual presentation, I want to quickly tell you about Crayon. So we're 20 years old, headquartered in Norway. Technology agnostics, we're a reseller, we sell software, but always at the core of what we've done is IT cost optimization. So mitigating risks, helping our customers make intelligent investment decisions, and also obviously unlocking savings across their technologies. Obviously the world has transformed, and so have we. So we also now have the innovation part, so cloud services, supporting our customers in managing, migrating to them, building on top of them, and also a data and AI center of excellence, so building data platforms and building solutions to increase efficiency. I'm the director of the IT cost management piece at your top right. So I've been working for Crayon for around 9 years, and in Finnish I would call myself a saituri. So I love what I do, I like finding costs, and I like optimizing. So let's get into the actual presentation. So first, the why. Change is probably the best word I could come up with to tell you why it's important to adapt your cost optimization to the pace of the transformation. Change obviously also means transformation, but it also means leftover money. Now, every organization's transformation roadmap is slightly different. There might be legislative requirements, it could be modernizing solutions, it could be migrating to the cloud, it could be most likely is leveraging AI and automation to increase efficiency. But much of this is happening on the cloud, which is flexible, fast, and scalable. And that obviously means that also the way we're paying for our technology has changed. So we've moved off from these long-term CapEx, capital expenditure, to more flexible and short-term operational expenses. Now, what I see a lot in businesses is that while the pace of transformation has increased and the complexities has increased, the way we approach IT, managing IT costs hasn't necessarily kept up. So whilst we're being billed by the minute, by the hour, by the month, whatever the metric is for our cloud services, many organizations are still approaching cost optimization kind of with the old method of we'll optimize annually, we'll optimize every 3 years when there's an agreement renewal. So you have one circle spinning really fast, and then the kind of optimization circle spinning way, way slower, and therefore basically you're hemorrhaging costs and missing out on a lot of change. And when I mean change, I just don't mean transformation, I mean leftover costs or money that you could be saving and investing back into your business. So what does this require? The pace of transformation, the added speed and complexity requires a pragmatic and proactive approach to your cost optimization efforts. Basically, both of those circles working in unison, a kind of circular economy approach. So as I said before, there's a lot of investment in innovation. It's happening on cloud platforms and services. It's happening by investing into software and automation. And most of the time, it's done by architects or developers or then business. So also the kind of cost decisions that are being made, IT and procurement are no longer so-called a bottleneck, but they're actually happening kind of in a decentralized approach. And while you can say, okay, I'm sure I know what everyone's doing and they're kind of considering costs, the fact of the matter is most artists die quite poor. And by that I mean the people who are innovating, managing costs and making optimal investment decisions isn't their priority. They obviously want to take something, bring it to production, or make sure that the business goals are being achieved as quickly as possible. So you really need to have a kind of a centralized approach to your IT cost management. So as you're transforming your business, you're focusing on two areas: eliminating redundancies, which means obviously when you're transforming, if you're bringing in something new, most likely it's going to replace something old. Or then if you've got a failed transformation project, remembering to remove the technology investments that you've made and no longer need. Then you've got the scale down and optimize. So that basically means right sizing. With the cloud, the kind of promise on the tin is that you pay for what you use. And that's true. But it's a different thing to pay for what you use and pay for what you need to use. And that's what we see a lot in customers, that there's a lot of additional expenses which are being paid for, whether it's too high-level licenses that could be downsized, whether it's virtual machines or disk space that's left over, or whether it's buying services from an expensive region on the public cloud. There's many opportunities to scale down and optimize. So this was the why. So this was me trying to convince you that in addition to innovating to optimize, you should be optimizing to innovate. And that's obviously especially important in times like these, when budgets are tighter, there's more uncertainty, you're still expected to deliver the same results from a business transformation and innovation perspective, but you have less money to do so. So then you can often find a lot of money already existing in your environment that can be freed up and used to invest. So now let's get to the how. So how do you approach scaling down and optimizing your IT estate? Well, no secrets there. Follow the money. 80-20 rule, 80% of costs come from 20% of the technology. So you need to make sure that you know what these are and that you have really in-depth data. So the devil is in the data. That's one of my favorite sayings. And for these core or high volume, big ticket items, you need to make sure that you have the tools in place to manage them on a continuous basis. There's a few examples here of the tools that we use. One is for FinOps or managing public cloud expenses. The other one is a Microsoft 365 Analytics, where we manage expenses related to Microsoft's productivity suite. There are other tools in the market, obviously. This is what we use. But the most important thing with the data, as you know, public cloud platforms generate a lot of data. You need to have metadata. So you need to have some tags in your environment to explain what is this service's expected life cycle, how is it licensed, who owns it. So bringing that context to that data to then enable you to efficiently and quickly identify where your expenses are coming from, but also where you can have the most impact by optimizing your costs. Benchmarking and using experts. Like I said when I introduced Crayon, we are a reseller, and that's a benefit. It means we have a really good insight into what different customers, maybe your peers, are paying for the technology. So you can reach out to us, get a benchmark on your pricing, and we can inform you whether it's competitive or not. You can also benchmark technologies. Microsoft 365, there's an alternative in the market, Google Workspace. You can do a benchmark against that. Even if you're not planning on migrating or going to Workspace, it's good data to have when negotiating with Microsoft. So this is just getting that benchmarking data of what if we were to move to another solution, use that information to then negotiate a better deal with your existing supplier. Another option is to make commitments and centralize. Depends what your appetite is for vendor lock, obviously. But if you make long-term deals, 1 year, 3 years, obviously you save costs. And if you even agree or commit to a certain euro amount to spend, for example, on a cloud platform, you can centralize your procurement through a cloud marketplace to achieve that additional discount that you've agreed with the vendor by committing to a certain level of spend. Previous investments. I'm sure, or I expect that most of the organization companies listening today, you're not cloud native. Maybe you are, but most are not. That means in some dusty cupboard somewhere, you've got perpetual licenses that you can open up and blow the dust off. And those can be used to get better pricing. Whether you're moving to a cloud solution, You can negotiate with the vendor that, hey, we have this previous investment, this needs to be taken into account when we now move to the cloud. Or then some vendors, for example, Microsoft Azure, enable you to use those licenses, those previous investments on the cloud by using Azure Hybrid Benefit as an example. And that obviously is much more cost efficient than for paying everything with a pay-as-you-go model. Finally, kind of with the big ticket items that can give you big savings fast, is moving to third-party support. Whether it's Microsoft Unified, Oracle, IBM, all these major enterprise vendors, there are partner-led third-party supports available, and that represents roughly a 50% saving on vendor-led support. So 50%, if you know the price of your Unified or IBM or Oracle support, that's how much you can save on it by going to a partner-led third-party support model. So that was scale down and optimize, insights into that. Next, I want to tell you how to eliminate redundancies. So simple, but very difficult, tracking renewals and anniversaries. Business is buying more and more. SaaS has lowered the threshold. You need a credit card to buy and bring in new technology. They want to innovate. They want the best of breed, the latest thing with the AI, embedded AI capabilities. And it's exceedingly difficult then to maintain kind of what we call an annual clock or a visibility of the life cycle of your assets. But at the same time, if you don't know the life cycle of your assets, then you also can't enact change, right? So these are the opportunities or the times when you have the possibility to actually remove a software or change how much you're investing in a software based on your usage. Removing and reharvesting unused software. I think on the bottom, you can see some data of how or when last and how often software that has been installed or used over a browser actually has been used by the end user. So getting rid of those redundancies, that software that isn't being used in your environment, that's obviously a quick way to find savings, free up licenses, minimize any unnecessary usage that isn't needed. Simplify and multiply, removing duplicates. On the top screenshot, you can see how many vendors there are per usage category, how many unique applications there are per usage category. And obviously, software portfolios are expanding. There's more options, there's more overlapping tools. As you're transforming, most likely you're going to be onboarding new tools that then should replace old tools. But if you don't have visibility of what your software portfolio looks like, it's very difficult to then identify those tools and make it kind of a change process of saying, hey, this is our preferred software or technology for this use case. Everything else we want to get rid of and we want to centralize to this technology. If you don't have this kind of data where you can get your visibility of your software estate per usage category, you can also kind of go on a simple level. You can just say, okay, based on my business objectives, what is essential, what is useful, what is necessary, then start mapping out your IT estate and putting them into those kind of high-level buckets, and that's another simple way of kind of doing software portfolio optimization. Open source alternatives, there's many out there. There's even a website dedicated to open source alternatives to commercial products. Obviously, they come with risks, especially if you're developing software, but they are a good way of minimizing some costs for certain use cases. Negotiating pricing metrics. What I see a lot when new software comes and is onboarded to a company, the initial metric, you might be procuring it from a test or a trial purpose, and then you'll say, okay, I'm going to take this pay-as-you-go or with some other kind of model for when you're test and trialing. But then if it's develops into wider use, so it said, okay, this tool is good, we want to take it to production, we want to deploy it throughout the organization, customers very often forget to then negotiate a new pricing metrics. So you're still on that most expensive pricing metric that you wanted to use during the trial period, but then when you go to production or you deploy it wider, if you don't update and negotiate that pricing metrics with the vendor, for example, going to a per user model or a per organization level license, then you're missing out on a lot of cost savings that you could be making by staying on that kind of most flexible pricing model that there is. Finally, SaaS ops. Some of you are familiar with FinOps. That was kind of maybe a word I forgot to say when talking about scaling down and optimizing. So FinOps is what it's about: cost transparency, cost responsibility, cost allocation and tracking, chargeback, etc., and optimization, obviously. So the same kind of principle to SaaS. It's a little bit different, obviously, because business procures a lot of SaaS as well, but it's the same principles. So enabling your product owners, the stakeholders who are managing SaaS at the business level to also optimize. So providing them visibility, but also making sure that they know what is expected of them from a cost management perspective, and also that the relevant processes are in place, for example, for them to receive HR data. So if a person leaves the company, that information flows down to who it needs to flow down to, so they can then remove that license in the SaaS solution. So kind of business level FinOps for SaaS solutions is what we refer to as SaaS ops. So that was the how, some concrete ways to enact savings in your environment. As you can see, we have the tools to do it. Then I wanted to go to the wow. So some concrete examples from customer cases. For scale down and optimize, hopefully it's big enough, yep. 1.5 million in cost savings, obviously a large customer, from Microsoft 365 Analytics. Half of those savings come from optimizing just tenant level things, so blocked users, inactive users, duplicate license users, so things that obviously don't require a lot of expertise, just maintaining the environment. But then you have another 750,000 coming from optimizing license profiles, so dropping users from an E-level package to an F-level package. And that's another 750K saved, and that's where our expertise comes in. The good thing with cloud services is that the data is available, right? All we need is billing reader access to an environment. We have the expertise to analyze that data. It's actual usage data, so it's not theoretical, because it's based on how your end users have been using the solutions. And 1.5 million. Then eliminating redundancies. Looking at low usage software, 1.2 million. Identifying risks in the environment, Oracle, Java, but also dropping from 70 to 50% for those, from a software portfolio perspective, targeting those certain categories that are kind of like the usual suspects of having multiple tools for the same use case. Product management, document management, graphics and imaging, and the final one was CRM and sales, of course. Yes, hopefully this kind of generates some interest and wow. Our stand is next to the elevators, so we're going to get you before you leave, definitely. But if this was interesting to you, be proactive, come talk to us. We'd like to obviously help you save costs and optimize to innovate. Thank you.
Marcel, thank you very much. I like that Saituri appendix to your title. It was very good.
Was it good?
Yeah.
Director of...
And really Finnish as well.
Yeah. One question, if you may.
Of course.
How do you see IT cost optimization evolving in the next 3 years? Because we're always interested in future. Where is this going to lead us?
Maybe like in my talk as well, obviously the speed of transformation means also the speed of cost optimization needs to increase. Probably the biggest change I see is like everything else, AI, machine learning. So a lot of what we do is obviously analyzing documents, scenario analyses, analyzing environments and data, all things that you can probably most likely perform with AI at some point, hopefully not too soon. I don't want to lose my job, but that's the future, obviously. So we're probably one of those industries or areas where AI can have a lot of impact with regards to efficiency.
Encouraging, informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.